Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome if you are new. I have been looking for a new VCR to add to my collection for a little bit now. My current unit that I've been using is this Magnavox combo that was manufactured towards the tail end of VCRs being commonplace, so around the mid 2000s. This unit was below average when it was manufactured and first created, and it's only gotten worse with age. It makes this terrible moaning sound that it's actually made this moaning sound since I had it as a kid. I remember going with my parents to Walmart to purchase this, and they were practically giving them away on the shelves, so it's pretty funny to see how expensive these will run you brand new on Amazon. Needless to say, I desired an upgrade. I landed on this Panasonic PV-V4520 that was manufactured in the year 2000, which is generally considered right around the sweet spot for purchasing VCRs. After that, DVD starts to become a more dominant format. VCRs weren't being manufactured at the same level of quality, and since we're dealing with 20-year-old technology, I'd like to minimize the risk as much as possible. This box is really quirky. I love the little callouts that are on it, including the Made in Japan sticker, which is a really big selling point for this unit. It's right next to this beautiful year 2000 compliant sticker, so I don't have to worry about the VCR imploding once it becomes the year 2000. It also has this interesting feature called VCR Plus. I'd actually never heard of VCR Plus until I got this unit, so I'll give you guys a quick rundown if you're in the same boat. VCR Plus was basically an alternative to programming your VCR to record certain shows. I never did this as a kid. I have no idea how complicated it was, but VCR Plus is really cool and simple. All you do is input a few numbers, and the VCR uses that code to record your show at that given time. Originally, I kind of thought that you might be able to create your own codes to program and record, which kind of makes no sense because I don't really know what I would be recording at this point, but sadly, the last round of VCR codes for VCR Plus was generated May 20th, 2010, according to this read-write article. I paid about $100 for this unit on Mercari, including shipping. Based off my research, which I couldn't find a ton of information regarding the price of this unit, it would have cost around $89 in the year 2000, which is roughly $157 adjusted for inflation in 2023. This VCR pretty much checks off all my boxes, including the fact that it was manufactured in 2000 with some high quality parts. Despite this being new in the box, I will say I judged this shipment quite a bit and I was very nervous. One, because shipping VCRs is notoriously tricky and parts can get damaged or straight up destroyed in transit. On top of that, this particular shipment was held at a UPS facility for over a week when we have record high temperatures, so I was very concerned about melting or just general damage to the unit. And as you can see, it arrived at my house in a black trash bag. I don't know how UPS allowed that to ship, but it literally came in a black trash bag. For the age, I think the box is in really good condition, and I do plan on keeping it because it's very flashy and gives you all of the information in that lovely, quirky, early 2000s manner. I did definitely see my life flash before my eyes for a second, though, as you can see right here. I thought that was a bug. I had a really traumatic experience at a thrift store when I first moved to Charlotte, where I essentially bought a piece of furniture that had a bunch of dead bugs in it, and I think that really shattered my innocence in terms of purchasing these old items because you truly have no idea where they came from. Happy to report though, no bugs in this particular VCR. It was also shipped really well besides that trash bag. It kind of makes a little bit more sense why it didn't come in a separate box. I still wish it did, but as you can see, there's several layers of bubble wrap and little packing peanuts as well to ensure that the VCR wasn't rattling about and getting damaged in shipment. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm pretty picky with my units, and I have to say this is about as close to a new experience that I think I would probably have unboxing this in the year 2000. This VCR is in fabulous condition, at least looking from the outside. Haven't looked in the inside yet, so that is still to be determined. Also have the remote that comes with it, the AV cable, and that's pretty much it. It also has the original remote that came with it, which I was also pleasantly surprised with, since those are some pretty old rubber parts. However, I was happy to see, at least initially before giving it a good cleaning, that everything appeared to be intact. Also, to my pure shock, bliss, and delight, the remote had no batteries in it. That is one of my biggest fears as well, purchasing old units like this, that there's batteries that have been sitting there for 20 years and have corroded and damaged. But as you can see, this remote literally looks like it's brand new. I'm not even sure if someone actually used this VCR or if it just kind of sat in storage for 20 plus years. High risk, high reward. You know what I'm saying? I'm so far feeling pretty good about this. Now, of course, upon taking a little bit of a closer look at the unit, I could tell that there was definitely some dust and debris, and I'm sure this unit is due for a good cleaning. Before I actually clean this up though, I want to make sure I'm not wasting my life. We still need to make sure that this unit actually works, so I don't have to be super sad, and also so I can rate this seller appropriately. The unit has not found its forever home yet, so instead I just placed it on top of my main TV console. We're going to be using my giant Roku TV, which I know is kind of unfair. These TVs are absolutely not meant or built to display VHS tapes, but for now, we're just testing everything out. So I'm hooking up my Amazon AV to HDMI converter. I will probably always say this every time I show the converter in the video, but just please be careful with these Amazon converters. Mine was relatively cheap and it gets the job done. I mainly use it for gaming on my Nintendo Wii, but I have heard stories of these catching fire, and I really do think that these are fire hazards. So just FYI, if you get a converter, unplug it, don't leave it on when you're not using it. Just my PSA.
Icy wilderness where the earth is sculpted, broken, but ever renewed. A gateway to our needs. Our grief and our dreams. This is the gateway to our last frontier, the Great Land, Alaska. For Alaska has more parklands than any other state. Of the 50 states, Alaska is the first in size, and with less than 500,000 people, the 50th in population.
It's alive, and thank golly gracious, because it would be so depressing after how beautiful the unit looked out of the box if it didn't work. But as you can see, everything is playing pretty beautifully, I would say. Gotta remember, this is a large TV. The picture is clear, and most notably, I think the thing that stands out to me with this VCR is the sound quality. It is hi-fi sound, and it is really, really nice. My baseline is pretty much at the floor because the only thing I've used to watch VHS tapes is that Magnavox combo, so audio files and VHS heads don't come from me. My baseline is different than yours. But let's also remember that this is being displayed on a 44-inch flat screen Roku TV. I am thoroughly impressed with the picture quality. The picture quality is not without its flaws though, which we will get into at the tail end of this video. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but first and foremost, now that we've determined that the unit works, it is time for us to get to cleaning. In order to open this VCR up, there are 4 screws. We have 2 that are visible on the back, and then there's also 2 more that are sitting underneath the unit, so you'll have to gently lift it up and remove the screws that way. They were very easy to get off, and in general, VCRs are set up for success in terms of opening and repairing them. I was amazed upon looking inside of this unit. I've opened up my Magnavox, and that unit was manufactured in 2008, and it does not look nearly as good as this one does. You can see there's very minimal dust and debris, a little bit of glue melting and glopping off, which is to be expected, and some dust on the time clock battery. But overall, this thing is in really good cosmetic condition, so all we're going to need to do is a pretty basic rendition of cleaning, and also we're going to clean the heads. I'm not doing a voiceover for the head cleaning because I feel like it's just better to talk it out in the moment. I have my VCR cleaning survival kit, which is rather simple, but I'll walk you guys through the products I recommend that you get. The most important ones, I would have to say, are these chamois swabs that you can purchase on Amazon. I will leave the link in the description below. It's not affiliated or anything like that, but they are kind of tough to find these days. You really want to use these as opposed to Q-tips or cotton balls, because those products have little tiny hair-like fibers that can deposit themselves onto the unit and then later get stuck. Especially, we're going to get into this when I talk about how to clean your VCR heads. You do not want a Q-tip anywhere near your VCR heads. You really want to be careful with them. So I like to call them VCR tampons. Obviously, they're not really called tampons, but I'm 5 years old, so enjoy sitting through that. I also have a can of pressurized air for electronics dusting. I get mine at the dollar store, $1.25 at Dollar Tree. Whenever I see them, I purchase pretty much every single one they have. It's efficient and it works really well. We also have our handy dandy isopropyl alcohol and some paper towels, mostly to set my chamois down, and in case there's a spill or some sort of issue, we come prepared. First thing I did here is use my pressurized air to dust out any of the dust. There really wasn't too much except for that left-hand section with the clock battery. I'm also putting my hand over the head, not touching it, but just putting my hand around there just to make sure that there's no dust flying into it. I also needed to use a pair of tweezers to grab some of the several large human-like pieces of hair that were in the unit. I don't really know about that, but this is the most important part. We're going to be cleaning the heads. Now, cleaning the heads, you want to make sure you're really careful. You don't want to damage the heads. The actual part of the heads that you're cleaning is this little part right here. You don't want to touch this with your hand. The only part you want to touch this with is this top little part here. Everywhere else, don't want to be touching that. I'm gonna get my little VCR tampon, just like a little chamois thingy. This might feel a little excessive, but trust me, you want to be careful with the head, because if the head gets destroyed, you are like royally effed. So I'm gonna take a coffee filter here. You can also use a coffee filter, but I recommend using one of the little tampons you can get on Amazon. I'm just going to kind of clean this before I even put it on the head. I'm definitely a little bit more paranoid than most, but I like to make sure that what we're doing here is not going to cause more harm than good, especially because I already confirmed that the unit works. The last thing I want to do in the world is be the reason why it's not working anymore. So once your little tampon is ready to go, you're going to take your 91% isopropyl. Do not use anything less than 70, and even 70 is kind of questionable. I recommend using 90 because you don't want like fragrances and other stuff in there. You want to make sure that it's like the hard alcohol. And just going to dip it over one time. Mine just sprayed everywhere. That's not what was supposed to happen. You don't want it to be you don't want it to be that wet. So I'm gonna take another chamois, do the same thing, clean it with a coffee filter, and then I'm just going to absorb some of this alcohol on the chamois, because you want it to be damp, but you don't want it to be so damp that it's like wet. You're gonna take your tampon, you're gonna put your finger on the head, you're gonna kind of like fit it on the side, and you're going to very lightly swipe it counterclockwise. Doesn't have to be crazy, doesn't have to be a lot of pressure, and you don't need to like push on it or anything weird like that. Not too much is coming off of this. Honestly, this VHS player is in really, really good condition. I don't think that it actually needs a head cleaning, but I'm still cleaning it because I want to make sure that, you know, we do this now because I'm not going to want to do it later. Now that I have the head clean, I'm going to flip this guy around and I'm going to start just like going crazy cleaning. I'm going to remove some of this glue. I'm basically going to do whatever I can besides like move things, physically touch things. I don't want to do that. I just want to like clean up the dust and the debris that I see and just make sure that we're getting rid of some of this like little bit of glue that's hanging around here. Now that the heads are clean, I'm going back into the sides of the unit where the tape is inserted and ejected and just making sure that I'm wiping up this glue with a Q-tip soaked in isopropyl. I also wanted to quickly work on the remote and check everything out in a little bit more detail. As I suspected from first glance, this remote is in incredible condition. Really all I needed to do was scrape a little bit of gluey gunk at the bottom where the batteries are placed. I also just gave the front casing a little bit of a washing and the sides as well. I do regret using the isopropyl on the buttons though, because I think I may have accidentally rubbed a little bit of the letters off. They're still legible, but I kind of messed up there. I think I wasn't thinking, and I just was so excited to get all of this done so I could set everything up and have my beautiful Panasonic PV-V4520. So don't do that, but as you can see, the remote is in really good condition. I'm gonna keep saying it because I feel like that's rare. And I just popped in 2 Duracell AA batteries. And here is the final product. Some of the glue I couldn't get cleaned off. I don't want to disassemble the entire thing because I don't really think it's necessary, but overall I think this baby is looking absolutely gorgeous. I then fitted the case back on, which I couldn't even record how long it took me to get this case back on. Getting it off was fine, but getting it back on was an entire ordeal that was very irritating. So I guess be mindful of that if you want to take this guy apart. I don't know why it's so difficult, but it really was a challenge. After that, I'm letting the unit sit for at least 24 hours just to make sure that the isopropyl has fully dried and we are ready to plug it back in. Jump in really quickly. It might seem like we did all of this in one go, but in my time, it's actually been several days. I'm smiling, but these last few days have actually been terrible. Every analog collector's dream happened to me. I found a mold in my air conditioning unit, which has resulted in a lot of stress and a lot of air purifiers, and also a really disgusting raspy cough. Also, I'm having a little bit of my own adult libation, as Teresa's Dead on YouTube would say. More specifically, 2 shots of tequila and some sparkly seltzer water. So it's been a while though, so the VCR has sat. It's had more than enough time to marinate all of the changes, and by changes I mean general cleaning that we did. Let's start it up using this remote. I love this remote so much. It just takes me right back to childhood. I love love this font down here, and just overall it's been a great remote so far. Works really well. Fun fact, actually growing up using a VCR, I never had the remotes. I think maybe our first VCR, which happened to be a Panasonic, had a remote, but I was very small, couldn't reach probably. I never used the remote, so this is like the very luxury moment for me. Oh, I make awful drinks. Oh my god, that's disgusting. I'm gonna pick another generic, and by generic I mean non-copyrighted tape. Some of these I actually haven't played before, but I'm gonna do tessellations, how to create them, because one of my favorite Alt-J songs is called Tessellate. It is a smaller tape reel, it's a T30, half an hour of footage on there. Pop this bad boy in. No. No. Oh my god, please tell me it's the tape. No. Oh my god. Oh my god, mental breakdown. Okay, mental breakdown. Everything's fine, mental breakdown. Okay, we're gonna go for Kipper. I know Kipper works. I've never played this tape before, so there's a chance that the tape is just old. Please, Kipper. Oh my god. This has been the most stressful week of my life. I don't really have too much else to say about the picture quality from this VCR. I'm happy with it. It may not be the best in the world, but for me, it is more than enough. Now, the issues that I ran into with this VCR is more related to the complex nature of using analog video signals with a digital device. Analog video signals are very inconsistent. There's different levels to them at any given point, and unfortunately HD TVs really don't like that inconsistency, and it can usually result in some weirdness going on the screen, or oftentimes just straight up the video won't play on the HD TV. So I'm actually really grateful that both of my Rokus, my 44-inch and my 28-inch smaller TV, which is what you're seeing on your screen right now, plays pretty much fine without any issues. All of the footage that you guys are currently seeing was before my TV started acting strange. I really don't know why, but both of my HD TVs have different problems. So the bigger one, the Roku, doesn't technically have any issues that make it unwatchable, but I do have to use the AV adapter, and unfortunately the picture is just not as good as it could be, especially when you're watching movies. You can really tell. I did purchase a coaxial cable to try to remedy that, and that did work. I got a much more clear picture, but I also got some really irritating wobbling that was happening, almost as if the tracking needed to be adjusted, but I knew it was coming from the TV and not the VCR. I don't have footage of any of these issues, by the way, because I couldn't bring myself to record any more TV footage. With my smaller Roku, it was going to be my dominant choice at first, but slowly over time, the more I was using it, I noticed that I was having some issues with the TV not knowing if we were going to be doing like full size or the standard 4:3 VHS aspect ratio. I think it's 4:3. That might actually be incorrect, but regardless, what I'm showing you here, this back and forth that you can see with the Kipper VHS, where it's like wide because I paused it and then it gets like small again. It was doing that constantly throughout a movie, which is so distracting, and I haven't been able to reset it or get it to work, so using it on the smaller Roku TV is not really a thing for me right now. The smaller Roku TV does have AV inputs though, so that is why, at least I think, the footage you're seeing here looks better than it does on the bigger one.
principles of design are balance, movement, rhythm, contrast, emphasis, pattern, and unity.
And finally, I'm going to show you a little bit of footage with my CRT TV. This is very new to my collection and it actually needs some work. It needs to be cleaned and I'm not willing to open up my CRT to do any of that. So I'm not going to be using a CRT as my main source for this particular VCR.
What I'm trying to do here is to balance these two elements in this on this ruler. I've got a heavy full can of Coke and a little jar of tempera paint. I'm trying to find a way that I can balance these. Balance is a sense of being comfortable in this, and it's also a sense of being comfortable in a work of art. So in our works of art, we have to have balance also. We'll see several ways that we can establish balance in a work of art.
Well, got that sharp, useless look about you. Might as well make myself useful.
Overall, the TV that won out is surprisingly the one that I thought would be dead last, and that is my 44-inch Roku, even though I do have to make some sacrifices in terms of the picture quality because it is such a big screen, and then I also have to use that AV converter. I still get a consistent picture. The sound is really good across the board. I have no issues with the sound, although of course I do think it sounds the best in the CRT. But overall, I'm very pleased with this VCR. I keep saying that because it really was a very good buy for me. I loved making this video. I loved doing all of it, talking about it, opening it up, and all of that. So that's pretty much it. Let's roll the outro. If you like this video, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. This channel is purely a passion project. I love talking about old technology, specifically early 2000s technology, and featuring the fun gadgets that I've acquired over the years. So far, I have 2 videos on my channel. This video about this Panasonic VCR and another one about the Nokia 2780 flip phone, which I will leave here if you want to go watch that video. Leave a comment, share with me your experience. If you had this VCR back in the day, I'd love to know your thoughts and your mini reviews, or full reviews, honestly. Anything in the comments section is welcome. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!